What up, y'all? Babbles One podcast. It's your boy, Jermaine Event. I'm a few days late just talking about this. I guess I could wait for the podcast, which I record on Sunday, to talk about all this, but I would be talking for hours. I was going to talk about even more here, but I've cut that down just because, I think for the most part, I'll talk about a lot of the announced fights. There was quite a few fights announced, and I'll talk about the majority of those fights as they get closer, as I'm given predictions on those fights. But quite a few events happened. It seemed like Dana White and the UFC felt like they needed to blast out a bunch of fight announcements to overshadow another announcement which happened on Tuesday morning. I wasn't working Tuesday, so I had no excuse for not making this video then, but I honestly didn't think about it. Slipped in my mind, and because I usually don't do this, but I'm gonna try to make it a habit to shoot out some more content for you guys right here for the YouTube. No audio, just straight to YouTube. And as I was saying, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning on Tuesday. I didn't have to work, but I usually work at 4 o'clock in the morning, so my body just woke me up. It woke me up before then, at some time, but I was able to go back to sleep. And then when I woke up, and it was just well, now you got to go to the bathroom. I had to pee really bad when I woke up, and I grabbed my phone. It was 4:30. I pee, and I look at my phone after I pee, and it says Francis Ngannou has signed with the PFL. All right, Francis Ngannou has signed with the PFL, and I was like, "Holy shit, it happened!" It was I was up at 4:30 in the morning Central Time. They had literally just announced it as I woke up, and I was just like, holy shit, dude. I should have, if I want to talk about it. But this contract is crazy. So before this was announced that Francis had signed with the PFL, you had people mainly Chatri from the guy who runs One FC, One Fighting Championship, out in Japan, mainly out of Japan. They have Demetrius Johnson, if you're unfamiliar. But, I think a lot of people thought that was the obvious choice of where Francis was going to go. But he came out about a week or so ago saying, the One FC is out in the Francis Ngannou game. They're not pursuing a deal with Francis Ngannou. And then he came out, right? So he originally came out and said they pulled the deal. They're not interested, and they're no longer interested in signing Francis Ngannou. Then Chatri came out a little bit after that and backtracked. And I'm saying that based off of the interview I just saw with Francis and Ariel Helwani, and I was like, fuck, dude, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even pick up on that until Francis pointed it out, and it really stuck out to me, how the MMA Twitter community seems to people were shitting on Francis when Chatri came out and said they no longer were seeking. They said they pulled the deal. They're no longer seeking a contract with Francis Ngannou. Right? That's what they said. That's what Chatri said. And everybody was fumbling. He's fumbling the bag. How could you fumble the bag? Because he's throwing out these numbers saying they offered him $20 million for 2 fights. And all this, just that. And then Chatri said he's asking for too much. All right? Chatri said he's asking for too much. He's asking for a seat on the board. He's asking for control over how much his opponent makes. He was throwing out all these things, right? And I felt like it was a smear campaign. They're trying to lower the value of Francis Ngannou. That's how I looked at it. And then Francis makes his announcement. He's signed to the Professional Fighters League, PFL, which, is known for, they've got fighters I think Anthony Pettis might be there. I think he might be a free agent, but he went there and it didn't go so well for him in PFL. But you got Thiago Santos is over there. He just tested positive for steroids, unfortunately. A lot of people just tested positive for steroids over there. But they got fighters. They got Shane Burgos, you know what I'm saying? I think it was a big competition between, conversation between PFL, One, Bellator, who's the number 2 promotion. And I honestly have always felt recently with the tournaments, I like the tournament styles that they do. PFL has the ref cams and all that. I like what PFL does. And I honestly watch, other than the UFC, I usually watch PFL a little more than any other promotion. So I think this deal here kind of solidifies PFL as the number 2 at the moment, and they're going to be fighting for that number 1 spot. But to get back to the contract, what Francis called Chatri out, when it was announced that Francis signs with the PFL and that he is given pretty much all those things that Chatri said was ridiculous that Francis was asking for, that nobody could give him these things that he's asking for, Francis came out and said he didn't ask for any of these things from PFL. He didn't ask for these things from One, from Bellator. He didn't ask for these things from anything. PFL came to him with this offer. PFL offered to him to be the president of PFL Africa. They're trying to set up mixed martial arts events in Africa. He's the president of PFL Africa. He has it in his contract that his opponent is guaranteed a minimum of $2 million to fight Francis Ngannou. And he's like, well, think about it. Think about who I am. And if you're in that cage to fight me, then you're obviously the guy. So there should be some guarantees. I'm like, yo, everything Francis is saying is just valid. It's so valid. And there's not a lot of people fighting for this. You got John Jones saying it's crazy that to hear someone say they're the baddest man on the planet from across the street. Francis is across the street. But what's disgusting about John Jones saying such a thing is that, bro, you were just complaining a year ago or so, however long ago, that they need to pay you more in order to fight Francis. And they were like, nah, we're not going to give you more money. We're not, you were just asking for more money. Francis went out there and set it up so that his opponents get a guaranteed of $2 million, and he emphasized that it's a guaranteed minimum of $2 million. Yes, you can get $2 million, but if you're able to negotiate for more, you should. But it's a minimum of $2 million. He's out here making game-changing contracts. People should fucking definitely take note of this and see what I can get. Why can't I do something like that? He's set up. All right? He's got a lot of assurances here. I'm not sure of the full details of the contract. I wish I could have. Let's see. It says it's only for 2 or 3 fights. Guarantees a high 7-figure purse for each fight. Oh yeah, this shit's pretty interesting. He gets a split of the event's net profits. And from what I was hearing, it's if they get profit on concessions, profits on t-shirt, on the merchandise, he gets a cut of that through his fucking, which is weird that I go to these UFC events and I put myself in debt just to get there. And then I foolishly window shop. I go to the fucking merch table and it's yep, $140 for that jacket. It's usually way too much. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And the fighters are apparently getting no cut of that. Usually, if it was, these probably wouldn't be noteworthy things in this deal with Francis. It says a signing bonus or salary to serve as brand ambassador for PFL. All right, everybody else. Like, when these people do these events for the UFC, from what I'm told, it's just like they get hit up like, yo, we need you to be here for these to do a meet and greet. But from what I'm hearing, it's not like they have a salary to be a brand ambassador, to promote. They don't get a salary for these things outside of just, you get paid this much to show up and this much if you win. Well, you only get the show money, and if you lose, you don't get anything else. There's no brand ambassador. They're all brand ambassadors. They're all brand ambassadors, which is why everybody should be paying close attention to what Francis Ngannou is doing. He has the right to his own sponsors in the cage. The UFC fighters cannot have sponsors on their shorts. It's just weird. Everybody's losing out. Like, people fight for like 30 and 30 to show, 30 if you win. But if you had sponsors, you could probably clear like over 100,000 in just the sponsors. And the UFC took that away for whatever reason they have. But it's just not fair. PFL is doing some big things right now. Non-exclusive. All right, this contract is non-exclusive with regards to boxing. He can box, where they're making millions upon millions. All right. How much did Conor made? What, $100 million to fight Floyd Mayweather? That's his end. That's the low end. Floyd probably made $3 million. You know what I'm saying? That's the low end. Floyd probably made $3 million. So $300 million. He can go bucks. No champions clause or other extensions. The big thing with the UFC contract is when he fought, it was like, well, if you win and you're the champion, then your contract is extended for is automatically extended for one more fight. But thankfully, Francis had his injury. He knew that he could wait out the contract, and there was clauses in there where he would be a free agent if he hadn't fought in this much time after yada, yada, yada. They tried to keep him in his contract, force him to be a slave. In that contract, Francis said, give us free! And now he's making moves out here for the PFL. Minimum salary, possibly as high as $1 million for his opponent. When he was on Ariel Helwani, I heard him say $2 million. But I was listening to Israel Adesanya talk about it this morning, and this article here is saying $1 million. But I'm pretty sure he said $2 million. Pretty sure he said $2 million. I think this move solidifies Francis as the baddest man on the planet. All right. This is boss shit right here. He's set up well after the fighting's over for him. He is set up, and he's setting up people back home in Africa. All right. This is some boss shit. Francis Ngannou is the baddest man on the planet. And fuck Anthony Joshua. I just saw a video of Anthony Joshua, or I saw an article where he's saying like he doesn't want to do the gimmick fight against Francis. Anthony Joshua, you are the gimmick. You just don't even know it. You are the gimmick, Anthony Joshua. You just don't even know it. So, they announced also, to try to overshadow what my boy Francis is doing, they announced that they're doing another PFL title fight. The original holder, I would say the original holder of the PFL belt was Nathan Diaz. But due to a doctor stoppage, Nate lost that fight that he was in to Jorge Trasvidal, and Jorge won the belt. See, I don't have issues with Dustin Poirier or Justin Gaethje. All right, I have no issues with either of those gentlemen. I'm actually a pretty big fan of both. I think they're both great fighters. It's just silly. I was just watching a video of Arman Sarukian talking about how they need to eliminate guys like Justin and Dustin and Chandler. Like, he's like, eliminate them from the top 15 because they don't want to fight anyone else. They just want to fight each other. All right? They just got booked to fight each other. Dustin hasn't fought in a while. He's clearly available. Arman needed an opponent. And now he has to fight some unranked guy. Because just as he said, just as a lot of people were complaining on Twitter, I was talking to some people on Twitter about this. They don't fight. They're holding up the division. They only will fight each other. And therefore, they're just creating this stalemate within the division. And now, to create even more of a stalemate with those same individuals, you're putting this nonsense gimmick belt, the BMF title, on the line in a fight between, and just a regular ass Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier, regular ass lightweight fight. Regular ass 155 fight. I'd understand if you had to defend this belt. Jorge Masvidal won that fight and then went on to lose every fight afterwards. He lost every fight since he won that belt. Never once did somebody else get the BMF title. Never did he fucking fight a middleweight. And you're like, what do you mean fight a middleweight? What is the point of this belt? Consolation prize for the division? Should there be a BMF, a bronze fucking championship for every division? A consolation prize, a participation trophy? What is the BMF title? I would understand if at least in one of those losses Jorge had, fucking twice to Kamaru, Colby, then Gilbert, none of those guys then take like pay-per-view points and get the BMF title? Like, what's going on here? If anything, fucking Kamaru should be he should have been not two division, but champ in one division at that point. He should have been champ in one division. But this belt means absolutely nothing. I was ready to see Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier without the inclusion of this belt. That belt just takes away from this fight. It's nonsense belt. All right? And it only made sense when Nate brought it up. It's some Nathan Diaz shit. And you got fucking Trash Vidal, who with every fight people were like, yo, put that belt on the line, and he fucking knew he was gonna lose these fights. Every fight he was into, he knew he was gonna lose these fights, and he'd be like, nah, this belt's not on the line, that's mine. It's not on the line. Like, then get rid of that nonsense belt. Don't then bring it back. All right. Don't then bring it back. Because this belt means nothing. I'm hyped for that fight, but this belt means absolutely nothing. It's dumb. Just get rid of it. But a fight that I do want to talk about that was announced that's fucking wild. Alright, this fight I'm excited for. We just saw this guy fight recently. One of these guys fight recently. And the other guy usually only fights once a year. I saw him fight in Anaheim when I went and saw Daniel Cormier fight Stipe for the second time. I saw this gentleman fight Yoel Romero If you're up on your UFC knowledge, then you know what I'm talking about. Paulo Costa. And I don't know why there's a 9 in that image. I looked it up. He's actually the ranked 5. He's ranked number 5. All right. I don't know where that 9 comes from. It's fucking silliness. Paulo Costa returns. All right, after a lot of controversy. He was originally, we thought he was going to fight Whitaker, and then he came out and was like, I never signed any contract. They're lying. And then Dana was like, yeah, fuck that dude. He's so hard to work with. And then like months later, they were like, all right, they gave him more money. Because he was pointing out how he's making basically no money at all. He's still on his first UFC contract, which sounded like a good idea when he first got into UFC, but now he's like headlining shows, and he's still making the money off of his first contract. So they gave him a new contract, and he's like, yeah, all right, I'm ready to fight. There is no, oh shit, Paulo is hard to work with. It's just like we paid him, and now everything's cool. He said we weren't paying him. We were like, he's hard to work with. Then we paid him, and somehow everything got done. So I wonder who was right in that situation again, where Dana says the same fucking story about his fighters that he says about every other fighter. I digress. Paulo Costa versus Ikram Aliskerov, man. I think, as you guys know, I love these fucking Dagestani. All right? These Dagestani fighters. To me, this feels like the old gods versus the new gods, ladies and gentlemen. You remember how back in the day, pretty much Brazilian fighters, BJJ, all that shit, like Brazilian fighters were kind of seen in like the creme de la creme as far as like mixed martial arts is concerned. At least that's my personal opinion on them. I felt like Brazilian fighters, fucking Jose Aldo, fucking Anderson Silva, fucking Vanderlei Silva, like you had like just scary ass Brazilian fighters. So Paulo Costa representing the old gods, ranked number 5. Fuck that 9 right there. It's ranked number 5. Versus Ikram Aliskerov, the virtually undefeated Dagestani fucking new fighter that just knocked out Phil Hawes. He's now gonna fight number 5 Paulo Costa. Old gods versus new gods, because the new gods are definitely these fucking Dagestanis that are coming in here ragdolling everybody. We thought it was like, oh shit, it's Khabib. They can just wrestle. And then Umar, Islam, Ikram, all these guys are like, nope, I'll knock you the fuck out on the feet too. Alright? They're fucking scary. These are the new gods. These Dagestani motherfuckers. These Chechens. These are the new gods. And Ikram is coming for that top 5 spot, man. With how everything is, man, I believe Robert Whitaker will defeat Duplessis. I feel like that's just a foregone conclusion. Like, you gotta pay. Like, you could just give Whitaker the money now. Give him his win bonus and all that right now, because I feel like there's absolutely no way, unless they let Duplessis bring weapons, like a few. I don't think it, like if they let him bring like a knife or something with him, I still pick Whitaker to win that fight. He's gonna need like fucking a new Edward Scissorhands ass surgery. All right, that's the only way I see him beating Robert Whitaker. So, in order to not do a third fight with Whitaker, I feel like you can't really sell people on a third fight with Whitaker right now, seeing as he lost the first 2. Ikram Aliskerov is setting himself up perfectly to be the next opponent for Israel Adesanya. And I don't think anybody's ready for this Dagestani wrestling other than Chimaev And I think we all know that this is what this is ultimately setting up. Ikram Aliskerov in a rematch versus Khamzat Chimaev, and that's gonna be fucking crazy. Khamzat versus all these guys like Shavkat Rakhmonov. There's a lot of fucking scary Russians, like Dagestani guys coming in like welterweight and middleweight, dude. It's a murderous row of these new gods, and I cannot fucking wait. And this fight, I don't think it's going to be too competitive at all. All right. We saw how Paulo looked against Luke Rockhold. I don't think this is going to be too competitive at all. I'm thinking Ikram will show you who the fuck he is when that fight happens. But I just wanted to come in here and talk about that real quick. Tried so much to do some more content for you guys throughout the week. I will, of course, keep doing the weekly podcast that'll post every Monday, but throughout that, I'm going to try to stop in and say hello to you guys. As always, you guys can follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Babylon5Pod. I'm not going to hit you with the whole spiel today. I'll just keep that for the podcast. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.